Hunayn. The Prophet of Allah they had Ajabatkum Kathratukum, I think that says the verse, isn't it? Kathratukum. You were kind of deceived by your numbers. You had large numbers. One of the first occasions the Muslims had a lot of numbers in the war, and they started to get defeated. And the Prophet of Allah everyone was falling apart. And then he got on the reason why the Arab, if you ever see an Arab horses are a little bit smaller than thoroughbreds, than American quarter horses, and a lot of other horses. If you ever had an interest in horses, Arabian horses are a bit smaller in size. They're a bit narrower in terms of their legs because they're more agile. Because the Arabs used to use their horses in warfare, and it's good to have a very strong horse, but better probably to have an agile horse. So that was what was really revered. The Arabs, the Arabian, now the best race horses pretty much are thoroughbred cross Arabs because of the agility of the Arabian horse and the acceleration and the size of the thoroughbreds. So that was really valued. And so they all had these horses, except the Prophet was saying he got on a mule. And a mule is an animal, it's a cross between a donkey and a horse. And it's a big-bodied animal, but what they use it for mainly is pulling carts, pulling heavy things. So it only goes straight. It doesn't have the perception to go left and right. So when the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, he got on the mule, he said, "Ana nabiyyu la kadib, Muhammad ibn Abdul Muttalib." That's what he started saying. And he went right through the middle of the army, because the mule he was riding only goes straight. It's not a horse that goes left and right, and it's agile, and he went straight. And this was considered amongst the most brave acts anyone can perform in a war. So bravery, shuja', is part of the qualities of the prophets. In the Battle of Uhud, when the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, he made mashura with the Muslims, and his idea was, look, let the mushriks come in, the idolaters, whatever, the Quraysh, come into Medina. If they come into Medina, they're not going to know the streets. They're not going to, and then they'll lose automatically. But the Ansar and the young people will say, no, we want to fight. We want to have another Badr. So he said, okay, if that's what the mashura is, let's do that. Then he went to his home, and then some of the older Sahaba said, what are you talking about, And they went to the Prophet of Allah's home, and he came out wearing his army gear. Like, they think that they used to fight in this sort of stuff. Chainmail. You know what chainmail is? It's chains, very small chains like the chains you wear around your wrist or whatever, if you're a sister in particular, or wherever. But it's all the way along, it covers the whole body. So that way if one gets struck by a sword or struck by an arrow, they won't die straight away because it'll bounce hopefully off the chainmail. A spear might be a little different, depending on the thickness of it, all these types of things. So he had his chainmail on, he was putting on his helmet, and then they came and said, Ya Rasulullah, we changed our minds. He said, La yulik li nabi. It's not appropriate for a prophet once he puts on the clothes of war to take it off, because that's being fearful, or the opposite of being courageous, whatever that is. What's the opposite of courageous? Cowardly. Jazakumullah khairan. So that's being cowardly. So of course you have to have that quality, and that quality Imam al-Haddad will talk about how to get it in this next little bit that we talk about. Of course it's not easy, because we're used to doing things for ourselves. It's easy to do something for yourself. It's easy to sacrifice for yourself. It's easy to enjoy and have luxuries for yourself. It's easy to even stay up late at night and study for yourself, compared to doing something for someone else. And in this sense, we're talking doing something purely for the sake of Allah. Purely because most of the times when you do it, not only are you not going to get any benefit out of it, but you probably cop a detriment most of the time. So it's a difficult thing. And I don't want you to think that it's not a difficult thing, but I want you to prepare yourself for that difficulty. That's what will enable you to overcome it. When a person's prepared, when they know they're going to climb whatever, Mount Everest or whatever it might be, or dive to the depths of the ocean, or go out in massive surf, or whatever it is, study for the HSC, they know it's going to be a difficult task, but they prepare themselves beforehand. So the Imam will talk about how to do that, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, hamdan yuwafi ni'amahu wa yukafi'u mazida, wa salatu wa salam ala khayr lanam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Inna nawayna ta'allam wa ta'lim wa tadhakkar wa tadhkir wa nafa' wa intifa' wa ifada wa istifada wa du'a ila al-huda wa dalalata ala al-khayr wa al-hath wa tamask bi kitabillah wa sunnati rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a praise that's worthy of beneficent bestower of bounties and blessings, and we ask our Lord Most High to send copious and eternal blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam. So the Imam says, رضي الله عنه وعنكم نفعنا به وبكم وإياك والمداهنة.
I think before that.
Where are we up to then?
And if you come to know that an evil will increase.
وأما إذا علمت أن المنكر يزيد بسبب النهي أو يعتدي الضرر إلى غيرك من المسلمين فالسكوت حينئذ أولى وربما وجب. I think we did that last week. Remember we spoke about that? We said that we were talking about that we were giving the 5 ahkam, or 2 weeks ago. We were giving the 5 ahkam what the ulama talk about. We said Imam Haddad doesn't even take it that far. I don't know, does anyone recall that? Did we do it or we didn't do it then? No? We did it?
We spoke about it, but that's where we stopped it.
Alright, khair. Alright, so if... Read it.
Yeah. And if you come to know that an evil will increase, if forbidden, or that the harm will involve other Muslims in addition to yourself, then silence is better, and in some cases obligatory.
Alright? And he says, he doesn't say in some cases, he says, rubbama, possibly. Possibly. Okay? So that goes again back to what we were just saying in the revision. That really, if you live for something, you need to be prepared to die for it. That's the reality. I mean, we don't, like I said, we don't, it seems extreme what we're saying, and you know, it seems like, oh, well, who would say something like that, and does really Allah want us? That's your choice to make. That's the choice of the individual who lives that lifestyle to make. And then, you know, we said 2 of the Sahaba, one was Abdullah bin Jahsh, I forget who, I think it was Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas. They were talking before they went to a battle. And then they used to ask each other what their intentions were, because when you talk about what your intention is, it crystallizes it in your mind, it crystallizes it in your heart. And so they asked Sa'd, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember, but we asked one of the Sahaba, he said, who is this, you know, what's your intention? He said, my intention is to go in there, find the biggest one of the enemy, fight that person, slay him, and then go and take the bounties, the booty, or the spoils of war, and spread the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Abdullah bin Jahsh, he said, my intention is to go into the most heated, the most intense part of the battle, and I'll hope to cop an arrow right here in my throat. And I'll die shaheed fi sabilillah. So what happened? Exactly that. That's the dua they made. Then they made dua for each other, that the first one would get, Abdullah bin Jahsh made dua for, I think it was Sa'd, that he would get what he wanted, and Sa'd made dua for Abdullah, that he would get what he wanted. That's how the Muslim is supposed to work. We're not supposed to be haters. That should not apply to a Muslim. We do not hate each other. We do not hate one another. We do not become jealous of one another if one of us is successful. It's the opposite. We rejoice in each other's success. And we push each other. In other words, we work our hardest for our Muslim brother or sister, as the case might be, to be successful. And we assist them in whatever capacity that we can, even if it's cleaning their shoes, even if it's that level, for them to be successful. That's the ummah. That's how the Prophet ﷺ wanted us to be, and that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to be. Unfortunately, things are a little bit more different to that. So when they saw him, Abdullah al-Haddad, Sa'di said his dua was better than my dua. So it doesn't mean, and this is a very important point, it doesn't mean that we live to die, so to speak. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean we're morbid in our outlook on life. It doesn't mean that we don't live because we know we're going to die. That's not what some young people take it that way. They're all pumped up. Don't worry about the dunya, the next life. No. Allah Azza wa Jalla sent us the Qur'an. Over 6,000 verses in the Qur'an. And He sent us the Prophet of Allah to show us how to live in this life. To show us, there's no, that I can recall, that the Prophet saying that, I want to die in any dua. He said, if death is better for me than life, so it's an if. He doesn't ask to die. He doesn't talk about dying in the state of not being muhmil, being neglectful of this world. That's not our approach. Although some of us, especially young people, have that approach. Oh, it's just the dunya. No, Habibi, it's not. The dunya, mazra'a. It's a field that has to be planted for one to have an akhirah, for one to have a life in the hereafter, for one to gain, most importantly, the pleasure of Allah, and to see and experience the countenance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the vein in which we should take it. If we take it in that vein, that's the prophetic way. We don't discount the affairs of this world. We're not neglectful of our responsibilities in this world. In the next chapter, that's what the Imam al-Haddad will talk about, inshallah. How we're all responsible and the responsibilities we need to fulfill in the life in which we live. So the question isn't about dying, so to speak, and leaving this world and going to a better place. That's not the question. The question is the struggle and the striving and the sacrifice one makes in order to fulfill their destiny. And one has to be close enough to Allah Azza wa Jal to realize what one's destiny is. Whether it is the tariq of Sa'ad, Allahumma adanu, or the tariq of Abdullah, Allahumma adanu. Any questions about any of that? Alright, so then we go on. He says, وَإِيَّاكَ وَالْمُدَاهَنَةِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنَ الْجَرَائِمِ وَهِيَ أَنْ يكون الحامل لك على السكوت الخوف من فوات مال أو جاه أو نفع يكون من قبل المباشر للمنكر أو غيره من الفسق.
Beware of dissimulation, for it is a crime. This is to remain silent for fear of losing a position, money, or any other benefit, the source of which is the person committing the reprehensible act, or any other depraved person.
Okay, so this goes to the question that was asked and what we were talking about previously about courage one needs to have in that circumstance. And it also goes to one's sincerity. Why is a person calling to Allah? Why is a person enjoining good and dissuading evil? What's the underlying cause of a person partaking in this particular worship? So what he says, وَإِيَّاكَ وَالْمُدَاهَنَةِ. So mudahana comes from the word dahana. We all know what the word dahan, most of us know what dahan means, don't we? To paint. Right? So it says, he's saying, be careful. What does he say in English? Iyaka?
Beware of dissimulation.
Right? You've got to be careful. You, like yourself, be careful of having a painted face. That's basically what they're saying. Painted face meaning what, do you think?
Hiding.
Two-faced, yeah, or hiding something, right? In other words, not being sincere in what you're doing. Be careful of being deceitful, in a sense. Right? When it comes to فَإِنَّهَا مِنَ الْجَرَائِمِ, it's a major crime. Because that's not the sifa, that's not the quality of a believer. Believers are never two-faced. Believers don't have a painted face. Believers don't hide things from the truth. They don't hide the truth from anything. وَهِيَ أَنْ يَكُونَ الْحَامِلُ لَكَ عَلَى السُّكُوتِ. So the thing that drives you to be quiet in that situation, whether it's to encourage good or to dissuade evil, the thing that makes you leave that quality, in other words, as the sixth pillar, as it was called by a lot of the ulama, if the thing that makes you leave enjoining good and dissuading evil is fear of losing money or position or honor or some other kind of benefit, where the benefit, the money or the honor that you will lose is tied to the person that you are supposed to call to good or dissuade from evil. And unfortunately, misfortunately, even that shyness sometimes it comes. That shyness, we know someone's doing the wrong thing, and we know someone's acting up, and we know that they know sometimes they're doing the wrong thing. But it's some sort of shyness that overtakes us that doesn't allow us to say something with wisdom or act in a wise way to let that person know that, look, what you're doing is inappropriate and you need to desist, move on, and whatever the case might be. Especially when it comes to someone who's in a position to give you some finance. I remember with two brothers one time, they were talking. They got interviewed with this government agency, and one of the questions they asked, because they were Muslims, it was about a Muslim project. They asked if you had a conflict between the Australian law and Islam, which one would you choose? And so the one brother, he was desperate for the job. He went and said, no, I'll choose Australian law. And the other brother, he didn't really care if he wanted it as much as the first one. Like he would want to do something good. If they took him, they took him. And then I said, no. He said, look, I would never break Australian law, but at the same time, if I had to make a choice, and the choice was not to do a crime under Australian law, but I could stay away, he said, I would choose Islamic law. And later on, they were talking, and I was listening. They were talking. And then they asked each other. There was 3 or 4 Muslims that went for the job, And they asked each other, and all of them said that they said, no, we'll follow Australian law, except the one brother that said, no, I'll follow my faith. And guess who got the job? The one that said, I'll follow my faith. So because sometimes they don't ask the question, sometimes the questioner doesn't ask the question for any reason except to determine the truth of the person.
Character.
Exactly. So that's the very intelligent, the questioners, they were very intelligent. What is the response of that person going to be? Are they going to stick by what they believe, or are they going to capitulate? So some people don't want a person like that working for them, representing them, as the case might be. So it's hard to do. Again, going back to it. Why is it hard to do? Because it is one of the highest of all the maqams. It's one of the highest of all the positions, because this is the job of the prophets and messengers. This is the job of the prophets and messengers. And we are the only ummah mukallaf. No other ummah had this responsibility, huh? No other ummah had وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. We are the only ones that there should be a large number of us calling to Allah. And like we said, it's the sixth rukn. The other ummah, the people of Isa alayhi salam and Musa, they didn't have that role. They just had to follow and that's it. But because there's no more prophets after the Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, sallu ala Rasulillah, sallu ala Rasulillah,
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
because there are no more prophets, he's Khatam al-Nabiyyin, he's the seal, the ultimate prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. It's our job. It's our job to do that. So you want to get the high stations, like the Olympics is on right now. I don't know, I think I may have spoken about it before. Usain Bolt, when he trains, every time he trains, he regurgitates his food. That's how hard he trains. And his father says, I can't watch him train. It's too much. If you want to be the best in anything, you have to commit to it. And you have to strive to achieve it. And that's in the dunyawi things. Imagine the akhiri things, the things of the akhirah, the things of spirituality. If you want to attain the levels or become close to the levels of the prophets, and there's Imam Ghazali mentions it in Ihya al-Ulumuddin, the Prophet said, and it's from the athar. It's not a hadith. Some ulama say it's da'if, whatever, but so that we don't get into issue with that. The Prophet was said, and it was said by the Sahaba in athar, in you know what the athar is, don't you? Yes? So the athar is not from the hadith, it's from the words of the Sahaba. Right? Isn't that what it is? It is, alhamdulillah. Okay, so from the words of the Sahaba, they said that the ulama of the ummah of the Prophet of Allah, and the scholars of the ummah of the Prophet are better than the prophets of Bani Israel because of that one factor. That one factor. So just because we know it's difficult, it doesn't mean we leave it. It means that we prepare ourselves, we understand the magnanimity of what we're doing, and then we work and strive to get to that level and station, inshallah, so we can do it. Right? And what does he say right at the end of the last sentence?
This is to remain silent for fear of losing a position, money, or any other benefit, the source of which is the person committing the reprehensible act or any other depraved person.
So it might not be the individual themselves committing that act, there might be someone in the gathering and that person is there. Sometimes your boss, whoever, doesn't like you to talk about Islam. Says, oh look, no, that's for when you're not at work, or when you're not here, or when you're not doing that. And you might have to advise somebody else. So either way, if the cause of your enjoining good, the cause of your not enjoining good, and you're not dissuading evil, is loss of a benefit, financial, physical, any other kind of benefit, then that's problematic for the individual, because it means that a person is hiding their true state, hiding their true faith, hiding their true condition, and that's not the sifa of the believer. It says, وَعَلَيْكَ إِذَا أَمَرْتَ أَوْ نَهَيْتَ بِالْإِخْلَاصِ لِلَّهِ تَعَالَى.
Know that when you enjoin or forbid something, that this should be done sincerely for God.
Right? So that's the key there. That's the key. To overcome that difficulty, to overcome that the hardship involved in enjoining good and dissuading evil, one must be prepared before they start talking, if the case is to talk, or acting. So, in the scenario, one has to be connected with Allah Azza wa Jal. If you see someone, you go to a gathering and someone's about to, whatever, show you something that's impermissible on their Facebook page or on their feed or whatever it might be. So you got to prepare yourself. At that time when they're going to show you that, like, people act in a particular way. When they're going to do something wrong, it becomes obvious they're about to do something that is at least, at best doubtful, at worst plainly haram, or kabira, major sin, when billah. So you've got to prepare yourself. At that time, you've got to connect yourself with Allah Azza wa Jal before you open your mouth. Just when the warning signs of something that's illicit that's going to occur, in other words, haram that's going to occur, at that time, it's not about you. It's not about what you know. It's not about the other person or what they're doing. It's about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's about whether you can connect, in other words, transcend the difficulty of your situation, or transcend the circumstances in which you're in, to connect to Allah Azza wa Jal, to get the divine help, the nusrah of Allah in that moment, for Allah to put on your tongue, firstly to put into your heart, into your mind, then thirdly on your tongue, that which is most beneficial in that circumstance. And then he says, وَالرِّفْقُ.
Gently.
Right? So that's the other thing. Whose deen is it? Whose deen is it? Right? It's the deen of Allah. And the sharia of the Prophet of Allah ﷺ. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. It's not personal. Be professional. Be separated from your own feelings and emotions about the circumstance, and in particular about the other individual, and make sure you know who you represent. Make sure you know who you're working for. Make sure you understand how immense that is, how significant that is, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah has chosen you to be in that situation in order to لِتَكُونَ كَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلْيَا. It's in order that the word of Allah becomes, the action, the deen of Allah in that sense, becomes the most exalted. Don't have a face of anger, or a face that is revolted or disgusted. No. These are ibadullah. Like Sayyidina Isa said, when Allah asked him, alayhi salam, he said, did you tell the people that, that you're my son and you're a God and all? He said, what are you talking about? He said to Allah, what do you mean? You know what I know, and I don't know what you know. He says, إِنَّهُمْ عِبَادُكَ. They're your servants. If you punish them, you created them. And if you don't punish them, إِنَّكَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. You are most exalted. Aziz, al-Izzah is exalted and wise. It's up to you. You didn't even get involved in the conversation, Sayyidina Isa. With all due respect to Allah, Allah was just showing us through Sayyidina Isa. It's a conversation directly between Jesus alayhi salam and Allah. And so Jesus says, don't put me in this situation. If you want to punish him, you created him. If you don't want to punish him, it's up to you. You know what you're doing. And that's where we're having a lot of problems as Muslims today. We're having a lot of issues that what it is a deficiency in the person who's calling to Allah. It's a deficiency in the person who's enjoining good and forbidding evil, because they're taking it personally. Taking things personally is a weakness. Taking things personally is a weakness. If we are to take things personally, we internalize taking it personally. We know that someone's insulting us, but we turn it back to Allah. Say, Allah, what do you want me to do in this situation? Ya Allah, what would the Prophet do in this situation? Ya Allah, help me, I'm too weak. Ya Allah, I don't have enough knowledge. Ya Allah, I don't have enough experience. Ya Allah, I don't have enough wisdom. Ya Allah, I don't have enough hinka, what's hinka? Like shiftiness in a way. Craftiness. I'm not crafty enough to deal with this situation. I'm not intelligent enough to deal with this situation. Ya Allah, help me. You think He's not going to help you? Of course He's going to help you if you're sincere. So we want to have rifq, and husn al-siyasa, which goes along with all these things that we just said.
Wisely.
It already says husn al-siyasa. Husn al-siyasa it's being diplomatic in that sense. Excellent diplomacy. Now, when we think of diplomacy, we think of the embassy, this embassy, and this diplomat and whatever. That's not exactly what it means. It means a comprehension of the situation and a comprehension of the personality of the individual you're dealing with, and a comprehension of the one which you represent, meaning Allah, and of course the Prophet of Allah. So it's not just to understand the situation, it's to understand the individual in that situation. So someone might be a very easygoing individual, right? But on this particular day, they're agitated for whatever reason. That the person who has husn al-siyasa understands that something's going on with this person is acting abnormally to the way they normally act. Differently to the way there's something's going on. So one has to change the way they interact with that individual in that specific circumstance. Husn al-siyasa. How to get about basically getting what you want with regards to those factors. That's what it is. Politics is not what politics is about, getting what you want, irrespective of the difficulties that you're facing. So that's kind of what it means. And what you want is what Allah wants in that circumstance. It's tied to wisdom. It's tied to wisdom. وَإِظْهَارَ الشَّفَقَةِ وَإِظْهَارُ الشَّفَقَةِ.
And with compassion.
Got to be there. Why does it have to be there? You tell me. I want you to tell me why. Why is the compassion, empathy, sympathy have to be there?
If you're not compassionate, you're just going to turn people off.
That's one thing. It's more than that.
You can understand them.
Yes, and more.
You're going to hate them if you don't use compassion.
More. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ
By mercy.
What? إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Empathy, compassion, sympathy. We don't know what situation people are in. We're emulating the Prophet in this sense, and the prophets and the messengers, alayhi salam ajma'een. In the foremost prophet and messenger we're emulating is Rasulullah Sayyidina Muhammad ibn Abdullah alayhi salatu wassalam. And that's what he was sent. We have to follow that. We have to have that empathy, that shafaqah. If we don't know, the person is, look, one time in Ramadan, if a person, they have sexual relations with their husband or wife, what's the punishment? Who knows? We did it only about a month ago or 6 weeks ago in Ramadan.
For 2 months straight.
Right? How many days? 60 days straight fasting. Firstly, it's to emancipate a slave, but we don't have that ruling, okay? Then, if you can't fast for 60 days, right? Pay the fidya, $10, $15, $20, whatever you normally. If you eat out in particular, what's the median amount, the average amount you pay?
It's about $15 today.
$15, depending on where you eat. So 60 masakin. So one time, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, who's responsible for the rulings, who's responsible for applying the punishment, a man came and said, Ya Rasulullah, look, it's in the middle of Ramadan, I had relations with my wife, what should I do? He said, emancipate a slave. Did he get angry, alayhi salam? He didn't get angry. He said, emancipate a slave. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm poor. He said, fast 60 days. He said, I'm sick. He said, feed 60 masakin. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't have the capacity. He said, all right, take this bag of dates and give it to the poorest people that you know. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm the poorest person that I know. And the Prophet, he smiled as you guys are smiling. Alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, take it, eat it, and don't do it again. That is the shock. We don't know people's situations. We don't know the circumstances they're in. Allah may have given you tawfiq to practice, pray 5 times a day, for the brothers in the masjid, for the sisters on time, cover up in the right way, act. The others, you don't know what this is. Maybe they've got mental issue. Maybe they've got spiritual melee. Maybe they've got something happened to them as a child. You don't know what the situation is. So that's why you've got to have that shafaqah. You've got to empathize. They're human beings. فما اجتمعت هذه الخصال في عبد مع كونه عاملا بما أمر به مجتنبا لما نهي عنه إلا كان لكلامه صولة وهيبة في الصدور ووقوع في القلب وحلاوة ووقعا في القلب وحلاوة في السماع وقل أن يرد عليه مع هذا كلامه.
For these attributes do not combine in one person who acts and refrains in accordance with his injunctions, but that his words become effective and evoke reverence, a powerful response from the heart and a sweetness in the ears. Seldom shall his words be rejected.
Read that again, please. That doesn't need any explanation whatsoever. That's read it slow, please, and everyone try and pay attention.
So, for these attributes do not combine in one person who acts and refrains in accordance with his injunctions.
Stop. Okay? So these qualities that the Imam's talking about, if a person strives, that we said it's a high level. There's no joke. This is the job of the prophets. This is the job of the messengers. If a person strives to embody these qualities within oneself,
then his words become effective and
okay,
reverence.
Her words become effective. Why do the words become effective? Because Allah decrees those words to become effective. When a person emulates the Prophet of Allah ﷺ. No.
And evoke reverence.
Of course. Because when Allah loves a person, Allah tells Jibreel, He'll tell alayhi salam, He'll tells all the angels, He'll tell all Ahl al-Sama, all the people of the sky, He'll tell all the people on earth, all the creations on earth, love this person because Allah loves that person. No.
A powerful response from the heart.
Of course, because the person is embodied. That individual has embodied, in a sense, prophecy. In a sense, the message of the Risala, of the revelation of Allah Azza wa Jal to humankind.
And a sweetness in the ears.
So whoever hears that word, whoever hears that person's words, they'll get affected somehow. Somehow they'll get affected.
Seldom shall his words be rejected.
Right? So people may not accept. There's a difference between the two. People may not accept, but they won't reject. And in reality, not rejecting is what? Acceptance. In reality, when someone doesn't reject your words, they may not say to you straight away, yeah, that's all good, I accept that. But not rejection, in reality, is acceptance, by acquiescence, by not arguing against it. Does that make sense? Right?
The same law, like if you send someone an email and they reply within 14 days, it's counted as...
Yeah, especially if you mention that, they say silence is acceptance and all these types of things. Yeah, exactly right. وكل من تحقق بمراقبة الله والتوكل عليه والتخلق بالرحمة على عباده لم يقدر أن يملك نفسه عند مشاهدة المنكر حتى يزيله أو يحال بينه وبين ذلك بما لا قدرة له على دفعه.
Anyone who has true vigilance for God, reliance upon Him, and has acquired the attribute of mercy towards His servants, cannot prevent himself from removing every evil that he sees, except when prevented from doing so by means which he cannot overcome. Right, so very important now. Imam al-Haddad set it up for us, given us the qualities that we need, given us the way, told us what the response is going to be from Allah Azza wa Jal and from the servants and the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He mentions two very specific things. He says, whoever وَكُلَّ مَنْ تَحَقَّقَ بِمُرَاقَبَةِ اللَّهِ. First instance, and we already spoke about that. Muraqabah is to seek out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all circumstances. So we spoke about that. You're in the situation, remember the example we gave, someone's going to show you something on their phone. First instance, raqab rabbik. First instance, go to Allah, Ya Allah, I'm a bit worried, what's going on, Ya Allah, help me out. Ya Allah, I'm unfamiliar. That's the first instance of da'wah. What's the second instance? وَتَوَكَّلَ عَلَيْهِ وَتَوَكَّلَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّكَ The Prophet ﷺ, of all the people that were alive in his time, who did he want to get hidayah the most when he was in Mecca? His uncle, Abi Talib. 7 or 8 years, he was his number one support person. But he refused. He wouldn't do it. Allah Azza wa Jalla revealed the verse, إِنَّكَ لَمْ تَهْدِ مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. You cannot guide whoever you love, or whoever you will. Allah guides whomsoever He chooses. That is the critical factor. No matter how good your deeds are, no matter how great your prayers are,
no matter how awesome your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may be, no matter how much you emulate the Prophet of Allah, in the end, tawakkal ala Allah. Realize that your actions are only makhluk. They're only a creation of Allah. All the things you do, it's only a creation. And it's Allah, the creator, the only one whom can affect individuals and guide them. And get them bi-idhnillah to change their negative qualities into positive qualities. To leave the evil and go towards the good. Is that clear? That's the major factor. All those things are there, yep. But that tawakkul weighs as much as all those other factors together. You with me? All those other factors have to be there, but in the end it's Allah's decree. If Allah decrees it, hey, it's going to happen. Allah doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter what you do. And that really, for the caller to Allah Azza wa Jal, that really is the preeminent factor, the preeminent issue that should be kept in the heart of that individual. Because a person then realizes that what's my significance in reality? Really, what am I doing? I'm only saving who?
Myself.
Exactly. In reality, I'm doing this because it's what Allah wants, and it's the emulation of the prophets and the Prophet of Allah, Sayyidina Muhammad, and I'm doing it because it's what Allah loves us to do. Change happens, that's Allah did it. Change doesn't happen, who did it? Allah. Okay, if it doesn't happen, then I can blame myself. And that's why the true callers to Allah, they're awake at night. They're crying. The true callers to Allah, the time of tahajjud, they're awake and they're crying. They're saying, Ya Allah, I spoke to someone, say, Ya Allah this, Ya Allah that. Allahumma la taj'alna fitnatan lilladhina kafaru. Ya Allah, do not make us a fitna, a tribulation for those who do not believe, or those who disbelieve more correctly. So whether it's Muslim or non-Muslim, Ya Allah, I was acting this way today, and maybe the non-Muslim saw me and whatever. So it's not just about what you did actively, but passively also what you've done.
With the example you just gave, so for example, if we're trying to guide someone, get them on the path, if they don't, obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that can guide. Is it wrong for us to be kind of give up, or should we always keep? If we see it's not going to be fruitful, what we're doing is not going to be fruitful, I think.
That's a good question about giving up. Again, when it comes to da'wah, it's specific in the circumstance with the individual. But in reality, did the Prophet of Allah ever give up da'wah? He never did. Okay, he never did. He always came back to the people, always tried to call them. Except Abu Lahab, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse, that's it, he's going to be in Jahannam. We shouldn't, if we can keep going with it, we can. At least dua. At least we should be crying at night to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, this person guide them. Ya Allah, this person changes their circumstance. So while we're on that point, on a side point, Allah guides whom He wills, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah wants everyone to be guided. The people that don't get guided, the people who choose not to get guided. Does that make sense? So we might be making dua, and you don't know what this person's doing, what they're thinking. We can't tell what the hearts are doing. But if a person is sincere and truly wants Allah, Allah will not reject that individual. That's the sunnah of Allah. So when we read the verse, Allah yahdi man yasha, wa yadillu man yasha, for example, Allah guides whom He wills, and Allah misguides whom He wills. It doesn't mean Allah is purposefully misguiding people. Everyone has the same chance to be guided or misguided in accordance with their own personal circumstances. It's all relative. Yeah? You with me? Yep. Okay, so when I say, oh, that's it, Allah chose not to guide. No. But in the end, the power of guidance and misguidance is Allah's. And if we don't believe that, if we say, no, people have, they make that decision, then what we're saying is Allah doesn't have complete power over all things in the universe, which Allah does, and the cosmos, and complete power, full stop, over the creation and the non-creation, whatever that may be, with that which we don't know. Okay, so that's why that verse is there. Allah guides who He wills and misguides who He wills, subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning Allah has full control over things. Yep, that's the significance of it. Not that Allah has chosen to misguide that person. No, that's not what it means. وَتَخَلَّقْ بِالرَّحْمَةِ. So, what's the rahmah, the ultimate rahmah?
So then, we can say then, the reason some people aren't guided yet is because Allah has chosen not to guide them yet.
No. the person they themselves haven't chosen to be guided.
Yeah.
That's what it is. If someone wants to be guided, Allah will guide them, inshaAllah. That's the sunnah of Allah. Now, that's what Allah wants. Allah wants people to go to Jannah. He wants people to be successful.
What if people they keep like they say all the time, I want to do it, like I want to do, but you can just tell like it's just words. They don't act on those words.
That's not your problem. Your
Yeah.
problem is to make dua for them, you know.
Okay.
And again, that's why people might be saying, oh, Ya Allah, guide me, Ya Allah. Like I got a friend, he wants to go on a diet. He wants to lose weight, every day drinks 3 cans of Coke. Habibi, all right, at least cut down on the Coke. He's saying he wants to lose, been saying for years he wants to lose weight, but what's his actions? What's the reality of his words? There's no reality there, or limited reality, as an example. Okay? So, the same thing when it comes to Hidayah. Allah Yahdina, he's just saying it. People are just saying it sometimes. We don't know, but a lot of the time people are saying it. So, that's why going back, we can't go back and say, oh, Allah didn't guide that person. So, Allah, that person, it's not their time yet, maybe it's not going to be their time. We don't know, that's in the domain of Allah, completely.
Does it go back to the ayah, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي قَوْمًا حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِم.
Look, that's
Is that?
in Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru bi anfusihim. Like that one in its essence is that when the people are doing the right thing, Allah leaves them doing the right thing. That's the essence of that verse.
Okay.
The essence of that verse, that Allah does not change what's in a people until those people change what's in themselves. The essence of the verse is positive. That if they're on good, Allah will leave them on good until they change. And the ulama, most of the mufassirin, most of the people, the exegetes of Qur'an, they say that's what the verse means. Some say it's the other way around, that if they want it, but it applies in both senses. It certainly does. And so a person has to prove to Allah. We have to prove to Allah. If you want something from Allah, you got to prove it. You got to show. It's not just for words. The sidq has to be proven. The sincerity, the truthfulness has to be proven. And maybe people don't want to do that. They're not ready to commit. And so Allah says, well, when you're ready, I'm waiting for you. In that sense, you know, that's the meaning of it.
What about those people who say things like, "Oh, why doesn't God guide those people? You know, He's left them for ages without, you know, a prophet or anything at all."
Well, I mean, everyone has the chance of for their own volition. They make that choice whether they want to be guided or not be guided. And Allah, He says that there's not a people except that we sent them a prophet. It's in the Qur'an. So every qawm, every people, every tribe, so to speak, nation, more correctly, Allah Azza wa Jalla has sent them a prophet to guide them. Whether they followed that prophet and changed later on, which is we know the case in many. Actually, I had a friend who just came back from Japan. He said, "Well, the Buddhists, they're so similar to the Muslims. You know, before they go in the temple, they wash their hands, they wash their feet. Subhanallah, because in essence, it all comes from the adyan, the religions, the divine religions, so to speak. We say al-adyan as-samawiyya, the religions that come from the sky, so to speak, which means the revealed religions. They of course they're all similar. Of course that, you know, we're closer. There's more similarities than there are differences. So they all have that common vein. It's the individual whether they're ready to accept, whether they're ready to look outside their own, you know, their own life and their own understanding of life, and look to something greater, and that's going above one's nafs. And sometimes that's a very difficult thing to do.
Can you say that there are people out there that don't know about Islam, or would you say that, you know, everyone has that chance, like they've heard about it and they can decide whether or not?
It's a good question you ask, because it's not just about hearing about Islam. I'm sure most of the people on earth, except people who are not you know, who can't connect to mass media, I've heard people, jungle people or tribal people or whatever the case might be. They would probably be the only ones, Amish or someone like that, who don't use technology. They would be the only people that haven't heard about Islam. But hearing the word Islam is not enough, really. I mean, they have to have received the message. They have to have understood. That's where our job comes into it. Though we have to present the message to the individual the way they understand the world. That's the hikmah. That's the husn al-siyasa. That's the wisdom. That's the diplomacy. So I can't. I mean, we said it before. I can't come to a farmer and talk about biochemistry. He's just not going to get it. It's like, what are you talking about? Or I can't talk to a sportsman about, you know, mathematicians, or about mathematics, excuse me, and optics or whatever it might be. Nor can I talk to a highly intelligent individual about something that they've never experienced. So that aspect of it, in reality, for the believers, it's how we connect to Allah. That's the essence of it. The essence of it is that when we're the conduit for the nur of Allah, like when we reflect the nur of Allah Azza wa Jal, without us saying anything, people will say, wait a minute, there's something going on here. We feel. The battle qulub, they talk about it, the emanations of the heart. The hearts emanate because the souls are all the same. So when we embody that divine and prophetic way, then people, they just know there's something special, something different about this individual. They get that feeling about it. So that's the essence of it. They say that's the al-Haddad, the speech of our state. And it's a lot stronger. And that's maybe where we were lacking. In my belief is that's where we're lacking as believers. And the evidence of that is the way we treat each other. If we really had a state, an enlightened state with Allah Azza wa Jal, we treat each other a lot differently as Muslims, as family members and all those things. And unfortunately that's not there. So that, in my view, reflects the fact that we don't have that internal strength. And when you don't have the internal strength, argumentation and debate only goes a certain way. It only goes, there's only a limitation to it, unless you're one of the preeminent experts on a particular subject. Unless you're the world expert pretty much, there's always different evidence that can be shown. So it's not just the words. It's more than the words, it's the state of the individual who delivers those words. It's the shafaqah that we mentioned by Imam al-Haddad. The state that we have. Why is it that we're talking to someone? Is to show them that our way is right and their way is wrong? That's not empathy, sorry. That's not empathy. That's not rahmah. That's qahar. That's almost compelling someone. We want to compel someone with a theoretical and reasonable argument. That's not what argumentation is for. It's to show the truth. And let the person decide for themselves. Let them come to their own conclusions about what they believe life is about. Let them come to their own conclusions about what they believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is about. And make dua for them. If they're sincere, Allah will guide them. Allah doesn't need you, doesn't need me. People become Muslim. Shaykh Nuh, I think it was one of them. Well, I can't remember which one of them. I forget now. I'm getting my stories mixed up, as usual. One of them he saw in his dream. When he saw in his dream, the Prophet come to him, and he became Muslim the next day. He doesn't need us, subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need Allah. We need the deen. We need the prophetic way. We need to call to Allah Azza wa Jal because it saves us. And particularly when we live in a society of, we're the minority. What did the Prophet ﷺ said that the Muslims, when they're a minority in a non-Muslim environment, they melt like salt melts in water. But us constantly calling to Allah, enjoining good, dissuading evil, keeps us strong. Because either you're a caller or you're a called to. One of the two. Is
that a hadith?
What? Melting, yeah. Melting in like melah melts in the water, like salt melts in water. Right? So either you're a caller or you're a called to. And guess what? If you're turning that phone on and going, you're a called to, I don't care what you've got on your feed. Unless it's got only dini things, nothing else, then you're being called to. And if you're being called to, what is it that you're being called to? What is it that you're being called to? Eat this particular food, what? Attachment to dunya. Drink this particular drink, attachment to dunya meaning excess, luxury. Go back to all the, people are always complaining, the world is like this, the world is like that. Well, why is the world like that? Because of the philosophy we live by. Consumerism and capitalism, of course it's like that. So that's what we're being called to in reality. So hey, it's a picture of a chocolate, whatever, sweet. But in reality, the call is to the way of life of that has engendered that sweet. That's what the reality is. So if I'm not a caller, I'm being called. And if I'm being called, what am I being called to? And that is the secret, really, in living in a non-Muslim environment. And that is the secret, living in an environment that isn't focused on Allah and the Prophet of Allah and the Deen of Allah. That's the real secret. When you're calling, your brain doesn't have time to be called. But when it's in a passive state and you're watching, you're listening, then whatever you're listening and watching is going to affect you. Someone else had a question they wanted to ask?
I didn't have a question, but just in general, adding to the discussion, so there's a cycle of change, and people are always in different phases if they want to make a change in their life. So there's pre-contemplation, contemplation, then the action, and it goes around. So talking about da'wah, when we're speaking to people, we can kind of ascertain where they're at in that cycle and kind of speak to them in that way, with our words.
Of course.
Yeah.
Find your way.
Yes.
One time I started reading this book on selling back in the day. There's one of the first genius guys back in like the 50s. He developed. I started reading it, and I was like, wait a minute, this is the Dawah manual for this time. So I stopped reading because I wanted to write it down, but I never got back to it. But you don't know where you're going to find the answer to that, because basically what you're doing is it's offered a treat. It's a legal phrase, which means here's what I've got. I'm offering you something. What's the way I'm going to offer it to you? Your generation is different to my generation. I think I'm somewhere else. You guys, millennials? What's a millennial?
That's the word, yeah.
In the thousands. So that's you guys, most of you, aren't you?
Anyone? Yeah, pretty much.
Right? 2000 and later.
Anyone's getting everything handed to them.
That's everyone.
That's
But, okay? So the generations are different. Each generation has to be called according to their understanding of the caller and the message. I can't. My days are over, really. When I was younger, 10 years ago, I could, talk to youth. But now I'm an old man. That's it. It's over for me in that regard. Only in a more sort of fatherly way, but not in a brotherly way anymore. It's over. My time has passed in that regard. I don't get it, but yourselves do. So calling your peers, calling those from your age group, from your generation, that's your job. You've got to work out how to do that. Whether it's by the cycle that you spoke about, whether it's by some famous person who said something. Al-hikmah dalatul mu'min. Wisdom is the lost thing of the believer. The believer is always looking for ways. I remember when we were studying, Habib Ahmad was saying, read that book, I forget the author now, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Famous book. I can't remember the name of the author. Anyway, he said, read that book. It's a good book. It's appropriate for your time. So those self-development, self-help books, they're fantastic in that regard, because they talk about the time in which you're living in, how people are thinking, how their attitudes are to whatever it may be. So you can apply Allah, the deen of Allah, and the Prophet of Allah ﷺ to that person's psyche. That's the husn siyasa. That's the hikmah. And really, one time we were with Habib Ali, and then one brother's like, I want to go and his dawah was, he put in America, they put I've told you the story, they put bumper stickers on their cars, honk if you like Bush, honk if you don't like Bush, whatever it is. So he put honk if you want to know about Islam. And then the brothers, they were laughing at him. And then Habib Ali goes, no, let him, just leave him. Whatever, someone's deen is, this da'wah ila Allah, the amr ma'ruf wa nahy munkar, is specific to you. It's specific to you. You've got to work out the way to do it. You've got to work out the best way with your skill set, your connection with Allah, and the people that you're speaking to, how to call them. And then later on he reported more than 1,000 people became Muslim. He had in his car a little box with DVDs back in those days and pamphlets and whatever else. So people honk him, pull over, beep their horns, pull over, talk to him about Allah. They became Muslim. One other brother, he was in London, he went to the park, I forget what the main park is there, and he stood on a crate and just started talking. People would come, they'd become Muslim. So, and that's not the goal, by the way. If people become Muslim, that's from Allah Azza wa Jalla, that's up to Allah. The goal is help yourself. The goal is emulate the Prophet ﷺ. Goal is connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way that He wants you to connect with Him, and this is the pinnacle of all those ways. So, وَتَخَلَّقَ بِالرَّحْمَةِ. Rahmah is what? وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً. The Prophet of Allah ﷺ. No greater rahmah on this earth. على عباده لم يقدر أن يملك نفسه عند مشاهدة المنكر. The person who is in that condition, the person who reaches that state, they will not be able to control themselves. They will not be able to control themselves when they see a munkar, when they see a vice. They will either حتى يزيل, until they can remove that vice that's going on. أو يحال بينه وبين ذلك. So he says, read it in English if you don't mind.
Yep. He says, who has acquired the attribute of mercy towards the servants cannot prevent himself from removing every evil that he sees, except when prevented from doing so by means which he cannot overcome.
Alright, that's the only time. So that time is the time to leave. If someone doesn't have the capacity and there's the munkar going on, there's a vice going on, only option is leave. And you're not leaving because you're disgraced or disgusted or you hate those people, none of those things. Leaving to save yourself. And you're leaving to make a stand, to let the other people know that I do not accept what's going on, so it's time for me to go. Any questions about any of those things? وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. So inshallah next week, try and read ahead if you can to the next chapter, so you can prepare yourself. But we should finish off the. It's actually really good what he says in the last part here. Maybe it might take us the whole lesson, I don't know, but at least read ahead to the next chapter, which is about responsibility and taking care of one's responsibility. جزاكم الله كل خير.